an invaluable management tool that outlines ways to increase productivity by encouraging and developing excellent moral in the workplace. The gung-ho story is Spirit of the Squirrel, The Way of the Beaver, and Gift of the Goose. 3 ways that lead to success, just not for work but in your life. This story is about Miss Peggy Sinclair. She gets promoted to general manager of Walton Works from a staff position. She wasn't trained to run a plant, especially one that wasn't going well. The plant had adequately ways of operating and was in major trouble with only 6 months to survive. Productivity was low and the company treated their employees badly. The only department doing well was the functioning department. Andy Landclaw, an Indian, was head of the finishing department. Andy's grandfather taught him about gung-ho and took him 5 years to teach this to his department. Andy began to teach Peggy gung-ho. It starts with the Spirit of the Squirrel, and Andy takes Peggy to a log cabin in the woods. Peggy was instructed to watch the squirrels while Andy took a nap. She was to tell Andy what she learned about the squirrels when he woke up. She noticed that they were running all over the place, filling their cheeks with seed and then running back into the woods. She averaged that it took them 30 minutes and 50 seconds round trip. When Andy woke up, she told him that if the people of the company worked as hard as the squirrels did, then the factory would be booming. He also asked her, they work hard because they are motivated and they have goals, so they need to put food away to survive for the winter so they won't die. She realized that they were motivated because the work was important and worthwhile. So, the Spirit of the Squirrel is worthwhile work. Okay, The Way of the Beaver goes like this. Andy takes Peggy on another trip to the cabin and then to the pond where lots of trees surrounding it. Up the tree they went to perch and to look at the beaver's dam. Andy handed Peggy binoculars and went to sleep. She noticed that there were logs everywhere due to the rainstorm that had just come through the area. Andy told Peggy that the Spirit of the Squirrel leads to gung-ho only when it matched the way of the beaver. As she sat there on the perch, it was easy to see why the phrase busy as a beaver came about. Like the squirrel, they were busy all the time. She was fascinated by their energy and drive. Andy told her that the way of the beaver answers the question, who's in charge? Peggy watched but didn't really see one beaver in charge and was getting really confused. She then realized that the way of the beaver is being your own boss and achieving the goal. As she watched, she comprehended that the beaver has control over its own destiny, and each beaver decides how the work is going to get done. They operate like an independent contractor. Peggy realized that if you let employees have the real say in ways things are done, then they accept the challenge. The real secret of success management is discovering what people do naturally and figuring out how to adapt to the organization. So the way of the beaver is it fulfills the needs, feelings, thoughts, and dreams. They are respected, listened to, and acted upon. The Gift of the Goose. So Andy takes Peggy to a marsh conversation area and puts her in a canoe. Peggy looks up and sees a large V of geese. Andy sets up a goose decoy and Peggy sees a flock of honking geese high overhead. Once Andy takes a nap while Peggy sits and watches, she begins to understand that the gift of the goose brings enthusiasm to the Spirit of the Squirrel and the way of the beaver. Andy wakes up and they discover what Peggy noticed about the geese. She tells him that the loud noise, and they told Andy that it was like they were having a loud conversation with each other. If you consider all these animals, the squirrels chatter, the beavers whack their tails, and the geese honk, this is done to send messages to each other. So the gift of the goose is cheering others on. Peggy realized that you must give encouragement, find something positive to say, and congratulate them. This must be done in a timely, responsive, unconditional, and enthusiastic way. By applying these simple steps, Peggy had turned the numbers around and the company was doing well. By using the Spirit of the Squirrel, the way of the beaver, and the gift of the goose, she had successfully saved the company. We can do this too by having a clear game plan, a good attitude, lots of energy, balance in our life, and connection with others. Gung-ho.
Gung-ho.
Gung-ho!